And eventually it ended up being a front runner. You know, it was a really good, fast car.
The lights are on, green, we're away. There's a great start there by Nicky Torregani driving the Mustang. He leads the way.
And in the meantime, my wife, who was a great support, you know, to us, eventually we decided that it was time that she started racing too. Okay, this is Nicky Torregani. He now has a driving license and get less loose on the roads. So one of the first cars I had, which was great fun, was a Fiat Topolino. We used to run on my father's model aeroplane fuel to make it go a bit faster. And I had a Cooper S. We used to go and see the Targa Florio every year. We had a race once from the ship in Syracuse to Cefalù. And we said whoever gets there first gets all his drinks paid for. And I had this guy that had come with me. He was an ex-British Leyland rally driver, a works driver. Ken Briley, his name was. He said, look, he said, oh, everybody's going to take the coast road. He said, we'll go across the mountains, you know, and we'll cut it short. And sure enough we did. And this car, this Mini had a sunroof, a Webuster sunroof, the Cooper S. And we were bombing along, and we came out of a tunnel, and there was a ramp, a big ramp, and we hit this ramp, and Ken left his seat and banged his head on the roof rack. Thank God we had a roof rack there. But anyway, we got there like a good hour and a half before anybody else. But that was fun. That was a good car. It had white tires on it, and Alan Parmere had built me a 130 brake engine for it with the Weber carburetor coming out of the bonnet. It was a downdraft instead of the side draft, you know, so it was quite a cool car. So really I went into that period of karting, which was great fun, and it was very competitive, and one thing or another, we had people from England used to come out and have a go with us. Then the hill climbs came in. My sister had bought this Maserati years ago. I remember we were sitting around on a summer afternoon looking through Motorsport, and there was this car for sale. There was two actually. One was this Maserati and a Ferrari Testarossa, and the Testarossa was £2,000 and this Maserati was 700. So we bought the Maserati. And eventually I got my hands on it, got it going, and we did a couple of hill climbs with it. But it was fun. It was a great little car. And Graham Nern, the owner of Caterham Cars, was a friend of mine, and he was out in Malta, and he had come to the hill climb, and he saw me struggling with this car. He said, listen, he said, guys, you're never going to win anything with this car. I mean, it's had it. He said, I kind of like it. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll do you a deal. I'll send you a Super 7 ready to win here. You know, naive as I was, I did. But you know, eventually these boxes arrived, and we got them through customs and all the rest of it. And I was in my grandfather's garage on Windsor Terrace, and these huge boxes arrived, and I had a friend of mine, Peter Bartet, who was inseparable. I mean, we were really doing crazy stuff in those days. We said, hey, let's open these boxes and see. And it was the Festa of Stella Maris. It was when we were opening the boxes out, the procession was going by. And we opened these boxes up, and we pulled the bits out and slowly started fiddling around with them off Kemily night, like 7 o'clock the next morning. We were out on the road in it. We built it overnight, and we were out. Petrol out of my mother's car, battery out of my mother's car. At the time, the hill climb just died, but I did a few sprints and, you know, pursuits and stuff like that. But it was a great car, huh? And in 1979, I got married and left and went to the UK. I didn't get involved with cars really till I bought a Morris Minor, and that was my transport, which was fun. And eventually I decided to customize it So we put an MGB engine in it with Webers and all the rest of it. put wheel arches on it, lowered it, and we called it Lamborghini because it was green. So it started to slowly go back into cars. We bought a quite a rare Scimitar GT, which we had picked up for nothing and restored it and did nothing very much with cars until I met this chap called Stephen Demand, and he was racing an Alpha at the time, and he said, listen, he said, why don't you come into it, we'll build a car together and go out and see what we can do. So I thought I'd better get something with a bit of horsepower to get me around them, because I'm not going to do very well in a Mini. I found this Mustang at a scrapyard in London and bought it for a few £100, brought it back and we built it, and that was a Mustang that I raced for many years. And eventually Stephen and I started this company called Classic Affaire, where we restored people's cars for them. We did some pretty epic cars. I mean, I think the most difficult one we ever did was a Jensen Interceptor convertible that belonged to a famous author called Harold Robbins. It was a disaster. But anyway, we got it done. And then we did E-types. We did a lot of E-types. We had one E-type that appeared and we started pulling it apart. And guess what? It had come from Malta. It belonged to a guy called Patrick Filetti. And somebody had sold it to England, and it ended up coming to us for restoration. And we started the racing then. We started going off and having a really good time with the Mustang, which was always in development every year. And eventually it ended up being a front runner. You know, it was a really good fast car.
Miles, the lights are on, green, we're away. There's a great start there by Nicky Torregani driving the Mustang. He leads the way.
And in the meantime, my wife, who was a great support, you know, to us, eventually we decided that it was time that she started racing too. It all started when we put her in a fully paid up rally drive. So she went in with I don't know how many other different women. Eventually it was just her and another woman that she made it all the way to the top. She was even quicker than the instructor. In the end, I said, right, okay, you've proved that you can do it. And I went out, we found this Mustang GT in a barn. That was a rust bucket, and we took it to the Classic Affaire and built it into the most beautiful car it was for her. And she proved a real point. She even one time had a race with Tiff Needell, who is the guy from Fifth Gear, and he used to do Top Gear in the past, ex-Formula 1 driver. He was also racing a Mustang, and she beat the living daylights out of him. And he actually was on TV, because the guy, he said, what's a woman like you driving a big car like this? And she told him, I don't think I'll see much of you in this race, you know? And she didn't.
Amanda, you're in the sort of super modified class. Does that mean you've got brakes that work?
Yes, this is all round.
Well, Amanda forced her way up from 5th on the grid to an impressive 2nd.
She was very, very good. She was quick, she was fast, very clean. And we were a good team. It was a wonderful period of time.